Good evening, everybody. Make sure we're live here. Looks like we are. Let's do an audio check real quick. Everybody? There we go. Audio's good. Tonight we're going to do a briefing for tomorrow's severe weather event here in Indiana. We have a couple of topics to discuss beyond severe weather, but we're going to break down primarily what's to expect for your day Saturday, which is tomorrow. What's up, Corey? Corey says sounds good. Awesome. Thank you very much. Let me know where you're watching from. We'll go ahead and wait a few minutes here for some people to file on in. We'll go ahead and start right around probably 7:02 and 30 seconds, give about a minute or so. So let me know where you're watching from. And while you guys do that, I'm going to make sure I'm set up here. It looks like I am. We do a couple other things here real quick just to get this set up. It's a nice day out there. It's humid, but it's a nice day out there. For the most part, at least. It's been better than what we've expected the past couple of days. So it's going to change tomorrow, though, that's for sure. Alrighty, there we go. Got everything pulled up here. All right. Got Mishawaka, Logansport, Valparaiso, Springville, Goshen, Bloomington, Frankton, Alexandria. Good evening, guys. All right, let's go ahead and get this briefing rolling. So if you guys are not aware, we have a severe risk for tomorrow, and it's our first severe risk that looks a little bit more, we're going to call it higher end than what we've been dealing with the past couple of weeks here in Indiana. We haven't had any organized, big lines or outbreaks of severe weather lately, but tomorrow, I think we have a better shot at some organization of some storms. So I wanted to pop on here and do a briefing here and just kind of give you guys an overview of what to expect and talk about it, timing and locations, all that information. So let's go ahead and break it down here, starting with the good old forecast from the Storm Prediction Center. This is the SPC for short. This is going to be probability based. We are in a slight risk for tomorrow that equates to level 2 out of a scale of 5, 5 being the worst, 1 being the lowest risk. We're at a 2. It's called a slight risk. That's for the yellow areas north of Bloomington. So big places: Indianapolis, Terre Haute, Lafayette, Muncie, Fort Wayne, South Bend, Angola up there. Gary, anywhere in the yellow zone, that's your slight risk. Further south, south of Bloomington to be exact, so Vincennes, Jasper, Corydon, you guys are in a marginal risk, a low-end risk for severe weather. Hazards tomorrow. Damaging wind is going to be your primary concern. It equates in the yellow zone to 15 to a 29% chance of seeing a damaging wind gust within a 25-mile point. So, for example, if you live in Lafayette, you have a 15 to 29% chance of seeing a damaging wind gust within 25 miles of Lafayette. That goes and applies anywhere in the yellow zone. Down here in the brown zone by Jasper, Vincennes, and Corydon is a 5 to 14% chance, so lower probability, but still there, still a risk to take note of further south there. The only part of Indiana currently not within a severe risk is the Evansville area, the bottom tier of counties way down here in that light green color. That's the only area not currently in that risk. Now, going forward here, the hail, pretty much again, the entire state minus the bottom tier counties, it is in a 5 to a 14% chance of severe hail, and that it falls again within a 25-mile point of any location. And then last but not least, there is a risk tomorrow for a couple tornadoes anywhere in this green color. So Terre Haute, Indianapolis, Bloomington, Muncie, Lafayette, South Bend, Gary, Fort Wayne, anywhere you see yourself in the green zone, pretty much anywhere, if you're central or northern Indiana, you're in a risk for technically all hazards for tomorrow. Damaging wind primary, large hail secondary, cannot rule out a few tornadoes. Now, let's go ahead and dive into the forecast models, timing, and what the models are currently saying, what could happen, what may fail. Let's go ahead and break this down here. Let's go ahead and start with the good old model most of us forecasters and meteorologists use. It's called the High Resolution Rapid Refresh. This is the most commonly used model. So today, pop-up storms possible south of Indianapolis. Those should not be strong or severe, should be garden variety in nature. As we push towards Saturday morning, we have a couple pop-up storms down there again by the Vincennes and Terre Haute area. those should not be severe. Now, moving toward the afternoon hours, here is 1 p.m. Eastern time. They start to intensify, and this model has a couple areas to watch. We have a couple storms out ahead, but the main wave is kind of back here in Illinois. We're going to watch that main wave back here primarily as that pushes into Indiana. So here is 2 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Here's 4 p.m. It kind of splits off. North mode and a south mode here. So we have storms up here by the Gary, South Bend area. And we got storms down here by Evansville, and we're going to call it Corridon areas. Here is 4 p.m. There's 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and then 10 p.m. It's about that 10 p.m. time frame things start tapering off. So this model says we have a split severe risk here, further north and further south, with central Indiana missing out. But that's not the only model we use. Let's go ahead and fast forward here to the RRFS model. RFS is a bit more aggressive. So here is tomorrow morning. It says we're dry tomorrow morning. 10 a.m. here. Let's go to 11 a.m. Here's noon. This is again Eastern time. 1 p.m., 2 p.m. We have storms popping up around 2 p.m. around the Indianapolis area, all the way up toward Kokomo. Go to 3 p.m. here. Those storms continue to blossom out ahead of that main wave. That main wave is the one we're going to keep an eye on very closely, although if these pop-up storms do happen out in front in the early to mid-afternoon time frame, those may be severe. The main wave, though, arrives at right around 4 or 5 p.m. Here's 4 p.m. There's 5 p.m. This model says it weakens out, and what's ahead of it does blossom. Any one of these storms could be strong or severe during those afternoon and evening hours, but take note, southern Indiana on this model gets missed. Okay, so different solution. Let's go to 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Finally, South Indiana gets storms. Let's go to 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m., and by about 10 p.m. or so, again, those storms are pushing out. So we're getting mixed signals. Let's go one more model, the NAM model. This NAM is one we don't like to use, but because there's so much inconsistency, we're going to throw it out there as a potential solution, just another idea of what could happen tomorrow. So tonight, some pop-up storms possible south of Indy, not severe. Tomorrow morning, this model says we're dry. All right, let's go ahead and run this through the late morning. Let's go to noon. We're dry through noon on this model. Here's 1 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. There are our storms entering the state right around that 3, 4 p.m. time frame, and those could be strong or severe. But take note, this is more of a widespread event with storms from Gary all the way down to Evansville, pushing east across the state. So 3 models, 3 solutions. What do we know? What we do know, I can tell you, is the environment across Indiana, the entire state really, is favorable for severe weather. Here's our wind shear. We're looking for greens, yellows, and red colors. So anywhere really you see those, the wind shear is somewhat favorable for severe weather. We're kind of seeing that pretty much all across the state here at 2 p.m. As we move into the afternoon hours, it kind of spreads eastward. The entire state really falls within a very well-sheared environment. So that's kind of checked off the list. We have that there. We're not concerned about shear. Spin, good thing is during tomorrow afternoon, we're not looking for too much in the way of spin, so it should keep anything tornadic in nature on the lower end. There's a few areas and pockets that could, try to spin something up there, but overall, we're not seeing anything widespread that says, hey, we're going to have spinning storms tomorrow. It's a possibility, but it's not a very high possibility. So spin is kind of iffy. Now, moisture, not a concern at all. Moisture is another ingredient we use to kind of predict severe weather. Moisture tomorrow, we're looking at low to mid 70s dew points, what we call disrespectful humidity out there. It's going to be very muggy and very hot out there tomorrow. So if you're working outside or in a factory or light conditions, stay hydrated, keep yourself cool. It's going to be a hot and muggy one out there, but moisture is no concern tomorrow. And then last but not least, our surface instability, what's going to fuel these storms, again, pretty much across the entire state, is potent and very primed for severe weather. So all the ingredients across the entire state are checked off. The main thing models are having trouble with is where storms are going to hit and when they are. So overall, main time frame, we're going to say as early as about noon to about 1 p.m.-ish, and then as late as 10 p.m. So pretty much we're going to say noon to 10 p.m. as a wide window, centered around that mid to late afternoon time frame. 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m. is when those storms really start hitting off there on the model. So that's going to be the main time frame to watch. Where and who's going to get storms is still kind of up in the air. We could see a wide area. Everybody gets storms and rain. We could see a few areas. Missing people, central Indiana, for example, could get missed. So different scenarios here, different solutions. The overall takeaway is the entire state is in a favorable environment. and a possibility for severe weather, especially central and northern Indiana. That's where the models kind of hint at a little bit more in the way of severe storms happening, but can't rule out some further south down toward that Jasper Vincennes area as well. That is your forecast for tomorrow. So we have different scenarios. Stay tuned. We'll cover it. I'll be live here at IWN tomorrow for coverage. So stay tuned. We got you guys covered if anything does happen to go severe tomorrow, which you do expect multiple storms. Now, fast forward to Sunday, another risk for severe weather exists. It's a marginal risk, basically south of, we're going to say, Kokomo, Lafayette area. Dark green colored areas here. Low end risk. It's called a marginal. Equates to about 5 to 14% chance of severe weather. So it's not a huge risk here, but keep in mind Sunday, more storms, some strong, perhaps severe on Sunday as well. No details on that yet. What happens tomorrow will directly impact Sunday, so we're not going to go into details on Sunday until tomorrow, perhaps Sunday morning, but just take a mental note, hey, Sunday could be a stormy day as well, okay? Outside of storm chances, we are tracking extreme heat on the horizon. We do have half of Indiana, or we're going to call it 2/3 of Indiana, highlighted here in extreme heat. This is for July 26th to about August 1st. Before that, though, we do have heat and humidity building in for next week. So prepare yourselves now. If your AC needs service, get that on the schedule now. You're going to need it next week, and especially in the late month, perhaps even into early August here, as dew points could rise 75 to 80, which is very, very humid, and temperatures could make a run into the mid-90s, giving us heat indices around 100 to 110 in spots in some areas throughout the late part of this month. So prepare now for that heat. It is going to be impacting us here the next 15 days or so off and on. Outside of that, tomorrow and both Sunday do have risks as well for flash flooding. These storms are going to be in a very highly moisture environment, so it could produce torrential rainfall rates. So do expect there to be instances of both flash flooding and just general localized flooding in low-lying areas and ditches across the state. The entire state is in a slight risk for that excessive rainfall for Saturday, tomorrow, and then for Sunday as well, the southern half of the state especially. And again, a slight risk for excessive rainfall for Sunday. So outside of the severe threat, we also have that flooding risk as well here in the state to keep note of. All right, with that said, that is your briefing. Feel free to ask your comments or concerns or questions here in the chat. We have a new flash flood warning in effect now, looks like, for Vanderburgh and Warwick counties. That just popped in, so take note of that. So down there by Evansville, looks like we have a couple flooding instances going on. So take that into consideration. A couple storms down there. We just talked about that earlier. Have a couple storms down there. Not supposed to be severe, but they are producing torrential rainfall. So take that into consideration. But yeah, that's the gist of it. We'll be live tomorrow if need be. We plan to be live actually. But hey, if this thing busts and we don't get many severe storms, that's best case scenario. But the environment is pretty well potent for severe weather, so I do expect there to be multiple storms that could be and will be severe. So that's the expectation. Let's hope it doesn't play out, but if it does, we got you guys covered here. Is there any cap in place? Not to my knowledge. Nope. The X-ray, we call them X-ray soundings of the atmosphere. They look pretty straightforward. We should have storms popping up, no problem tomorrow. The cap should be very, they shouldn't have a huge effect on things. How is it looking for tornadoes? Low end risk tomorrow. Low end risk. It's not a zero risk, but it's there, especially across the yellow areas. I would expect there to be, in the entire state, maybe 1 to 3 at most. It's not a very spinny environment out there, but we could get a few cells that do try to spin. So we're watching it, but it's not a very high concern. We're not really concerned for widespread tornado outbreak or anything like that. Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? Feel free to pop them in chat. Jared, the main time frame for severe is going to be between noon and we're going to say 10 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow afternoon, but centered around that mid to late afternoon time frame, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ish. Amy, not really seeing much that supports an MCV with this setup. We'll have to kind of see if we have a mature squall line that develops. We could see an MCV on that, but as of right now, models are kind of again split on what's going to happen. So, yeah, within storms, winds up to 60, perhaps 65, maybe 70 in spots. If we get again the high end environment, the higher end of things, perhaps we could see up to 70-mile-per-hour winds in the strongest storms, but right around 60 should be the max for tomorrow. Unless, again, we have more organization than what's expected, which is a possibility. Models have kind of been off this year so far, so we'll have to see how it plays out. But right now, I would expect, scattered 60-mile-per-hour winds or so with some damage in the state. Do you think the squall line will take place and go over Northwest Indiana? If so, how bad do you think it's going to be? Taylor, that is a possible solution. Again, models are kind of split, but I will say they are kind of agreeing that Northern Indiana, including Northwest Indiana, will be impacted by storms. Although it's not really certain if they're going to be in a squall line, if they're going to be cellular by themselves in nature, or perhaps multiple modes, or, possibility of both. So I can't really say, if it will. Now, if we do get a squall line, typically lines of storms are more dangerous for wind. So if that does come to fruition, we get a big line of storms, I would expect there to be a little bit higher of a wind threat for you up there versus if we just have individual storms. Hannah, I have not seen anything that suggests a level 3 risk is incoming. I think personally, looking at models, just because there's a lot of uncertainty, I would expect it to stay a slight risk. So we'll watch it. You're not going to rule out an enhanced risk for the SPC, but right now I wouldn't really expect them to do that. So, Amy, it's not really expected to weaken as it pushes eastward because it's happening during the peak heating of the day. We're not going to lose that daytime heating as these storms progress eastward. So it should maintain strength across the entire state if there is a line. It could go either way, Derek. I could see a line, or I could also see a mixed mode of supercells as well as a line. I can see it going. Wow, I can't talk. I could see it going both ways. Any other questions, guys, before we hop out of here? Been live for about 20 minutes. If you just joined us, feel free to rewind and watch the first about 5 to 10 minutes of the stream. We covered everything in detail, including extreme heat upcoming, as well as the risk for Sunday, as well as obviously a risk for Saturday too. So we covered it all here. So Lane, I love these questions about cities. We can't really pinpoint and tell you what cities are going to be hit or not. If we could do that, that'd be amazing, but we just can't. The models, technology nowadays, the data we have at our fingertips, we can give you a broad spectrum of how the environment is looking across a wide area, but we can't pinpoint, yeah, for sure, Lafayette's going to get hit, or Muncie's going to get hit, or Richmond's going to get hit. We can't tell you that for sure. I can tell you, yes, you're in a risk tomorrow. Mitchell is in a marginal risk for severe. So do take note of that. Actually, I think you're pretty close to the slight risk. You're right. I think you're right in the line there between the slight and marginal. So you are under risk nonetheless, no matter what level. So do take note of that. And yes, storms are possible tomorrow. I just can't tell you for sure if you're going to be hit by one. Hannah, time frame is noon to 10 p.m. Focus is going to be right around 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m. for the strongest of storms. Kelly asks, if redevelopment happens overnight Saturday, early into Sunday morning between 2 and 6 a.m., will they just be as severe? Kelly, I do not think we're going to see redevelopment overnight. I'll go ahead and run this through, though. Yeah, models keep us dry overnight. Sunday morning, there is a risk for severe weather with this incoming decaying line of storms in Illinois. But we'll have to kind of wait and see how that plays out, because how tomorrow plays out will affect how Sunday plays out. But right now, models keep us dry overnight, but between Saturday night and Sunday morning. Final call for questions, guys. I think I got everybody in here. If I missed your question, feel free to ask it again. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and pop out of here. And like I said, we'll be live tomorrow in the event we have scattered to severe. So stay tuned. We have chasers who plan on being out as well. We'll have coverage of radar as well as infield coverage from our storm hunters. So let me look at that real quick, Kelly. So we use one model. Let's go ahead and look at another model here. Let's go ahead. Yeah, I mean, the RFS model does show some that redevelop overnight, but let me go ahead and take a peek at this. They're kind of on the northern fringe of instability. I guess you can't rule out another strong storm after midnight or so, but most models hold off until around sunrise. They show nothing or hold off till later, like towards sunrise, 5 a.m. or after, like this model here. So, well, I guess it comes down to what model you want to use. Some say storms overnight, some say don't. I would lean more so towards. So look at it this way. It's weather. So we kind of have to use our knowledge of meteorology a little bit here. If we have a big line of storms that comes barreling through the state, that's likely going to suck a lot of instability out of the state with it. I would expect there to be minimal storms past that into the overnight hours. But if the opposite happens and we have areas that don't get impacted by storms, we have a lot of instability left over, that could fuel storms overnight. So I think it's going to really come down to how the afternoon plays out. So if we have an excess of more storm fuel to work with, we could definitely see more storms overnight. But if we have a big squall line push through, that should take a lot of our instability and fuel out of the equation. So sure, we can roll through that. And lane tornadoes are possible tomorrow, but it's not a very high concern. We could see a couple, but it's not expected to be an outbreak. So a couple models here for tomorrow. We're going to show you guys 3 once again. Here's tomorrow morning. 12Z is 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Here's 9 a.m., 10 a.m. Eastern time, 11, 12, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. This model says we have 2 areas, North Indiana and South Indiana, with clusters of storms. Okay, here's 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., and 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11, midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This keeps us dry overnight. And then our secondary risk develops Sunday morning, afternoon with this area over here. So this model is just one solution. Other solution here is the RFS model. Let's go ahead and back this up here. Here's Saturday at 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and 10 p.m. 11, midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. Okay? Last model here is the NAM. This model says here's 8 a.m., here's noon, 1 2, 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and 10 p.m., 11, midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those are 3 models that could happen. 3 solutions are possible. The environment across the entire state would be favorable for severe weather north to south. Evan, the program we're using here is called WeatherBell. Yeah, the good news though, Derek, is even if we get storms overnight, it's going to be overnight. So we don't have as many things going for severe weather than we do during the day. Yeah, so the HRRR is the most commonly used model, and that says nothing happens overnight. So here's 7 p.m. tomorrow evening, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10, here's midnight. We're dry, right? This is now basically from midnight here all the way to sunrise here at 7 a.m. Eastern. But then the other models like, oh yeah, by the way, more storms here. This is at midnight right here. Here's 1 a.m. We have storms popping up around the Indianapolis area. So I guess we'll have to play it by ear tomorrow. Again, if there are more storms during the afternoon and evening, I wouldn't expect there to be a second line after that. But if there's less storms with more stability hanging on, we could definitely see redevelopment. Yeah, I would expect there to be clusters. Based on models, I'd kind of expect like clusters, lines, and kind of individual, like a mixed mode of everything, really. Okay, I don't see any more questions popping in here. I'll give it about 20 more seconds. Feel free to pop those in. And if no more questions get asked, I'll go ahead and pop out of here. Before we end the stream, though, shout out to our sponsors. We have Michaelis Corporation. They are roofing and restoration across Indianapolis. If you have damage from storms on your roof or just need general restoration needs, feel free to contact Michaelis. 317-251-1935 is their number. And also for tree needs, if you have tree damage from storms across the Indianapolis region as well, we have Ruckers Outdoor Services. 317-665-3969 is their number. Thank you to Ruckers, and also thank you to Michaelis for sponsoring us here at IWN and being our trusted partners here, giving you guys services in the event that you need their assistance. Rhonda, do not expect tomorrow to be a derecho, although the pattern long-term, like 10, 15 days out, we're going into what we call a ridge pattern. What that means for us, hot, muggy, and somewhere within that pattern, we're probably going to see a breakdown of that pattern. And when those patterns break down, we can see those derecho type systems, or at least, if not a derecho, we could definitely see like MCSs or big squall lines that form, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and push our way. Those are possible here. I would say next 20 days or so, I would be on alert for that, for sure. We'll let you guys know here with forecasts, and we'll keep you guys up to date if that does happen. But the pattern is trending that way here, as it usually does in summer season. Sorry, Tiffany. Had to be honest. We have a ride in Bloomington at 11 a.m. tomorrow till about 1:30. Valerie, the majority of models say we could have a couple morning showers or storms down there, but I would not expect those to be severe. I think you'll be fine, honestly. If you're home, you're safe by 1:30, that should be just fine, as storms on most models arrive closer to that 2, 3, 4 p.m. time frame. So you should be fine. All right, I am going to pop out of here. Expect us to be live tomorrow in the event of scattered severe. We'll have chasers out there regardless. I'll be here covering the radar if need be. So you get to deal with me tomorrow. So with that said, you guys enjoy your evening, and I will catch you guys probably sometime tomorrow for coverage of severe weather here in Indiana. You guys enjoy your evening. Stay safe.